All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
We're having a slight problem with our guests this morning.
Oh my goodness.
I know I can't figure out quite what's going on here. But our guest this morning, Alina Ashley, is having problems with her camera. So we're hoping at some point during the broadcast that we can get Alina to see her beautiful face this morning. But I cannot figure out why this is happening. So good. Well, what did I say the other day? I think, Michael, you and I were on together, and I said, are we ever going to have a day where we don't have some kind of technical difficulty?
Well, you know what's funny is you watch so many podcasts and all these deals, and you hear these people always talking about, oh, they have all these technical issues and all this. I'm like, how bad can it really be? You just click a button and type your name in there. But we see now that it is.
Apparently, yeah, there's and now, there she's back.
Well, I keep trying.
Well, God love you. I mean, so long as we can hear you, I mean, I think this is a good thing. It's just we would really love to be able to see your gorgeous face.
Yes.
It's morning.
Yeah, well, and we all get to put up with that.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have you with us, and
Thank you.
I had completely forgotten until just now. It's Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, it is.
Yes, that's coming up on Monday.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Does anybody have any exciting plans for Monday?
Not that I know of.
Nothing exciting, but I'm grateful that some loved ones will come over and we'll just appreciate one another and create some new memories.
Yeah, and I think it's we get Memorial Day and Labor Day and Veterans Day and all of these things confused, but Memorial Day is the day that we set aside to remember those who have been lost fighting for this country. And it's probably more so than anything, as our country kind of falls into disrepair. It's so important to remember those. And I really urge people to watch some of there she is.
Hi.
You did it.
You made it.
There she is. Hallelujah.
Yes. Hallelujah. For sure.
We weren't kidding. She really is here.
She was. That's awesome. I'm so
Thank
glad you figured that out.
Yes, I had to close a lot of stuff. I think that was it. Something about
Oh.
closing other pages or something.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So again, on one hand, computers are great, and on the other, they cause us considerable consternation. So, so anyway, what I was saying was, this weekend you might watch, a movie with your, a movie depicting some of our, world wars. So many of them. We were just going to sit down and watch Glory the other day. I don't know if you guys remember Glory or not, but that was a good one. And always what's the one with Tom Hanks and Matt Damon and Matt Damon?
Is it finding?
Yes. What is it? It's not Finding Nemo.
He was finding his brother.
Yes. Yes. It was one of my favorite movies ever. Yeah, I don't know why I can't think of the name of that. But anyway, so don't forget to do that this weekend. Alina, I'm so glad you are able to be with us today. And thank you so very much for taking your time and being with us. Why don't you tell everybody you were elected to the Tulsa Public Schools Board. So you are a Tulsa Public Schools Board member.
Yes, I am, for District 4, which is East Tulsa. And that was just over a year ago. It was April 5th. It was April 5th. A year went by so quickly. I thought, I could get in and just whip the world, but it's a lot more involved than that. You would think that everybody's on board with saving children and helping them read and, making sure our children are prepared for life. And it turns out that it's just a lot more complicated, very much so.
Well, Michael ran for Edmond School Board, and we, God bless him, could not even get him elected.
Yeah, well,
And
I ran the same time Elena did. And we met down at the Capitol during one of the OKHPR deals, and
Yes.
we went up on stage and did a little 10-second speech. But
I remember
I just
that.
want to
Yes.
say, I just want to say, we're all so proud of Elena, because for the last couple years, there's been a lot of really good, qualified, Christian, moral, conservative people that have run for school board, and no one got it except Elena. So I just want to congratulate her, because it is hard for people like us, I should say, that are not just massively left to break into the education system. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's the grace of God. Jared Buswell just ran. And, I think about, how much time and energy, volunteers, and money that went into my campaign. And I think Jared kind of double that, and it still wasn't able to get across the line. So you have to know that it's a God thing that allowed that to happen. And I think during the whole election, or during the whole campaign, I had, I think, fewer volunteers, less money, but a lot of hard work every single day, knocking on doors and talking to people, and just trying to get the word out. And now that it's been a year of being there, we were able to do things like have the audit for Tulsa Public Schools, which is something that I think we talked about for years. And I thought, why isn't there an audit all those years? And so, that was something that just miraculously Governor Stitt and Ryan Walters pushed forward for us. Well, actually, Ryan Walters wasn't a superintendent then, but he definitely supported us in that as well.
so, just out of curiosity, and I'm trying to figure out quite how to get us back to there we go. When you ran, I mean, what was kind of your impetus for running? I mean, why did you want to do it in the first place? I mean, can you kind of give us some background there? Did you just wake up one morning and say, I think I'm going to do this?
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, 2 years before I ran, we were talking about having monies. I think it was a bond issue that was having monies, thrown into Tulsa Public Schools. And I spoke with many people, and we were just wondering, where's all the money going? What's happening? Why are we putting what is it, at that time, I think it was about a $9,000 per student into our children, and seeing results. And so it's just something that was on my heart for years. I am a veteran. I'm a mom. Certainly an American citizen. I taught in Tulsa Job Corps. I taught in California when I lived there. I taught, I subbed here in Tulsa Public Schools, and I just did not see education. In fact, in Job Corps, I remember thinking, how did all of these people, fall through the cracks with just not even the bare minimum of being able to, read, write, and do math. And so education has been on my heart for years. And when the opportunity came, I thought, well, somebody's going to step up and do this. And, someone with, more, whatever more would have been, but no one stepped up. And so, that was an indication that, I just can't let this keep going the way it is without saying something. And so I ran.
I feel like I've known you for a long time just because
Yeah.
I go to Tulsa, frequently,
Yes.
and we kind of run in the similar circles, but
Mhm.
I really had no idea what your background was until you said it today. And I just find that fascinating. And as a matter of fact, I want to go back. I'll let the whole thing about you being from California slide.
I'm a refugee.
Let's just go right over that.
Okay.
I had lunch with a missionary from China, and they went from China to Berkeley, California, and she said she loved it there because it was just like China.
Oh no.
That's not funny. Why are we laughing? That's not funny.
That's not. Well, California is so beautiful. And,
Yeah,
years
is.
ago, 30, 40 years ago when I lived there, right? It was just, a fun place to be. And it wasn't the best. It was still liberal, but you could breathe there. But I was just visiting there recently, and it is just so thick with deception and confusion. I'm just so hurt, So I'm praying for California.
Well, and
as
in
should we all?
2008, the people of California voted not to have gay marriage.
Right.
The Supreme Court overruled it,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what the people of California, that's where they stood. It's gone crazy since then, but
Exactly. And before then, it was leading up to that. I think it's just that kind of Hollywood culture that everybody
Right.
buys into. That is just the fantasy world.
it's the fantasy world, the
Mhm.
deception.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, so I wanted to back up and talk a little bit about Job Corps, because I don't think a lot of people know what Job Corps is. And I thought what you said was extremely enlightening about when you were at Job Corps and you were meeting with these people and they couldn't even really read and do basic math. So let's back up. I'd really like to hear a little bit about Job Corps, and I think people would be interested in that.
Well, Job Corps is a place for young adults to gain life skills, a career, and hopefully, get their high school diploma. Well, I actually taught, the high school diploma portions. And oh my goodness, I would say 75% of the people that came to Job Corps was very, very deficient in being, able to read, write, and do basic math, like adding, subtracting, that kind of thing. So we had to start from the basics, from the beginnings. And I just, I thought, how could this happen to so many people? And young adults, they would just be so discouraged, thinking that it's just something they would never be able to do. And thankfully we were able to help a lot of people. And some people that are discouraged, they quit. They don't, once you set your mind to thinking that I'll never be able to do something, then it doesn't happen. So I just met just all kinds of young, wonderful people that wanted more out of life. And that was an opportunity for me to be able to work and teach and do things that I love.
Well, I was very struck by what you said earlier too about Tulsa Public Schools, just like so many. So I'm not just faulting Tulsa Public Schools. I'm just talking about that because you are a board member there. But so many schools are constantly, and I'm going to use the word assailing their taxpayers with continued bond issues over and over again. And I'm going to make the point here before I ask your question, because people don't understand one fundamental thing that should make all of the difference in the world to the way they look at public schools. You pay property taxes.
Oh, yeah.
And public schools are funded in a myriad of ways, frankly. You think it's one way, but that's not true at all. There are, I think, 13 different funding streams for public schools. So, but one of them is your property taxes. And a long time ago, the powers that be wanted to make sure, I believe, this is my personal opinion, wanted to make sure that taxpayers had no idea what they were paying in property taxes, that they couldn't see them, because the only time you really ever pay your property taxes out of pocket is if you own your own home, because usually property taxes are funneled in with your house payment and your insurance. And so if you don't own your home and you're paying on your home, then you don't see your property taxes until you get a statement in the mail, usually once a year, from your county assessor that breaks that down. But a lot of people don't even read that or know that it comes, or just don't pay any attention to it. But your property taxes are paid with your mortgage payment.
Yes.
And I absolutely despise that, because it buries your property taxes, and you have no idea how much you're paying in property taxes unless you specifically run it down to find out. And then the second branch to that is, again, if you don't go to the county assessor, Tulsa County in your case, Oklahoma County in our case, if you don't go to that assessor and say, I want to know how much my property taxes are. Oh, and by the way, I want to know what my property taxes fund, because your property taxes not only fund public schools, but they fund your public libraries, they fund your public the trade schools in your area. So there are numerous things that do that. But the thing that people don't understand is, anytime you get a school bond issue and you vote on that school bond issue, you are voting to raise your property taxes.
You're betting your house on it.
You're betting your house.
And
That's
your community. Yes.
Absolutely. Perfect way to say that. Exactly right. So TPS, what was the last bond issue for TPS? Do you remember what it was for?
Let's see. We had a bond last week, and
last week. Oh my goodness! Holy cow.
Last meeting. Yeah. You mean the amount? I don't remember.
No. Do you remember what it was for? What was it for?
So we had a large, well, actually it's coming up. We did a precursor to the bond or something.
Yes. You have to do that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So that's
well, usually they're to fund stadiums. They'll fund change like
buildings.
Thank you. I was struggling with
constructions and buildings and all of the whatever it takes to make those things happen. I remember thinking when I first got on the board, a year ago, that because get in April, and around June, then I guess you start voting for bonds and that kind of thing. And so I was thinking, my goodness, they're building great arenas unto themselves, and filling them with children that are not able to read. And so please go back. Yeah, I've got this online. Thank you. And so they building and stadiums and beautiful lights. I had a constituent come to me and said, "Oh, the lights at your elementary school, they're so bright, they are keeping me up all night." And so that there's the whole lighting systems, and they're doing things that are not helping the child.
Right.
And it's really insane. I mean, while the lights are on all night, blinking and looking good to the passers-by, students are in there still being asked in school, getting A's and B's and not able to read.
Yeah.
And But a
And
parent
I think
brought up
that's
just in the last week or so. And it's just heart-wrenching.
well, and I think that's probably the worst thing about school bonds. And it sounds to me kind of like what lit you on fire to run. I mean, you in your past had found that the children that you were interacting with, or the young adults that you were interacting with, were having trouble reading and writing, and yet TPS keeps asking for money from the taxpayers to fund this bond or that bond or this bond or that bond.
And they're all like time sensitive, and apparently, getting all of these bonds means that the school board can get more money. And so it's just so many ways to make money off of our children and not address their needs. And that's just a huge issue for me. And that's what really got me going.
And another thing, I mean, when you vote yes on a school bond issue, you're not just betting your house, you're betting all your neighbors' houses too.
Absolutely.
Every single
whole
person
community.
And I had one of my school board members that said, I think I can explain this to you and make you be in favor of this bond election. And I said, oh, you could convince me that I should contribute to your issue. So, but you will never convince me that I should force my neighbor to. So that's.
Well, and I think that's that and the fact that I say I own my house, but it's a lie. I don't own my house. The state owns my house. Because if I ever decide not to pay my property taxes, it gets to the point where my school is so bad and my libraries are feeding children so much smut that I just say, I'm out. I'm not paying that anymore. What happens when I do that?
Right. Take your house. Yeah.
They'll literally kick me out of my own house that I paid a mortgage for, sell it out from under me, pocket that money, and I'm out on the street. So
the state government, everybody, gets your money except for you. And then, like you said, it's the whole community that loses, because once, your whole community can't hire anyone, students can't get out of high school and find even, what they call minimum wage job. Employers can't afford to hire students at minimum wage because they can't make a living paying $15, $20 an hour. They can't compete with big business. It's just domino effect of failures for us. And so it just makes sense to look at everything and do everything we can to try to protect our children and teach them, how to work, how to think for themselves. Just the basics: reading, writing, and math, civics, all of those things that have been missing, it seems, for years. I can't hear you.
Jenny,
I had to turn my mic off because I was choking on my coffee earlier.
I'm sorry.
So you said civics. Few people talk civics anymore. They say social studies. The difference between civics and social studies is enormous. Social studies is about social aspects and emotion. You're right. Exactly.
Right.
Whereas
I hear social justice more than I hear social studies, but okay.
Well,
so that's a whole nother level.
No kidding. But civics is the study of government, and part of the reason why we are where we are is, like Julia, you pointed out earlier about the Supreme Court overturning the vote of the people in California. If we understood, if the populace understood how government was supposed to work, this stuff wouldn't be happening to the extent that it's happening. So civics is very important. And Oklahoma, I think, what is it? Only 13%. I'm struggling here, but it's under 25% of the population of students can take a civics test and understand how government works. So, that's just outrageous. So
True.
do you feel like you've made any headway since you've been there? What are your thoughts about, being a member of the board? Just kind of generally, you might just go through some of that for us.
Well, I did mention the forensic audit, which was something that we were really, really fighting for. And as I have, met with auditors, I understand that to be every aspect of how the school is run, hiring and firing, where the money goes, all of that is involved in a forensic audit. If instructors are being able to teach what they've been trained, to teach. All of these things are a part of forensic audit. And so I'm really, really glad of that. I think that is something that we might, in the next year or so, start hearing more about, the results of that. With Epic, apparently it took almost 3 years to start, hearing some feedback from that. So I wait patiently and keep up the faith and keep trying to do what's right by our children and by our students. Also, I really appreciate the parents that come out, Moms for Liberty and Rope and several parents that are looking at the literature that our students are being exposed to. It is, we just have to keep our eye on the prize, that's the thing. And so as I go through, meetings, I've learned so much about how box curriculums are fed to us through maybe federal funding and other fundings that we need to bring in certain types of curriculum that have more to do with, in my opinion, indoctrination than it does anything to do with academics. So we don't want to teach our children to be activists. We want to teach them to think, to know why they would be, doing protesting or whatever it is that, that is being addressed in some of these curriculums. So I think that my job here is just to make sure that parents and citizens and we are all aware of what is being fed to our children in our Tulsa public school system.
So of all of the things that you've done so far, because you've been on the board 2 years now, right?
1 year.
1 year. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this question. In that 1 year, in your initial year, what was probably the worst thing, the thing that shocked you the most about either being a board member or something that TPS kind of does and expects the board to go along with?
Oh my goodness. I feel like there's something going on every meeting, every 2 weeks. So, but recently, as I mentioned, there was a gentleman that reached out to the board, and he is a counselor in one of our schools, and he wanted to address the board about students being passed in the school system who actually could not to him and said, I can't read, but I get A's and she said that, it was said that her parent or grandparent was reaching out to the school and making calls and trying to get help from the school, and they were shut down and not listened to. So that is a constant, not being able to listen to parents is a constant reaction that I get from many people, that we are censored, voices are censored, parents aren't heard, teachers aren't heard, they're shut down, and that surprises me. I mean, that is it's horrible. It's horrible that we don't listen to the parents. Things are happening secretly, apparently, and when they come to a meeting, even to speak to us, uh, it's shut down. So that would be the thing that is, we have been censored. Teachers are being censored. Everyone seems to be afraid to speak up, and I'm just in constant shock about that. I just don't understand why that's happening.
Well, Michael, that's one reason why you ran, wasn't it? I mean, because you were finding exactly the same thing going on in Edmond.
Oh yeah. Well, it was more or less, there was no communication back from the board. There was no accountability. We'd ask a question, parents would have issues. You'd want to have lunch with your child or want to know an answer to something. And then, there was all the COVID, everything that had to do with COVID. But the superintendent just seemed to take control of the districts, with even if a board member may not agree with a certain situation. It seems like the hierarchy just comes from the superintendent. They tell the board what to do, and the board just goes along with it. You don't have strong board members like Elena that aren't afraid to speak out and say, hey, you work for me, not the other way around.
True.
Well, Elena,
I don't say you work for me, but I do, try to.
I would say that. I would say that.
But I know that the board is supposed to be in charge, but it's totally apparent that everyone is under the thumb of the superintendent and does the will of the superintendent as if it were a dictatorship. And it's everyone, it's very apparent. Everyone, like I said, is afraid. It's just a tyranny type of situation. When I try to go into schools, are afraid to allow me to. I don't even need to speak to them. I just need to be able to see how the students are doing and just be an observer. And how can you possibly observe if you can't just walk in and as a school board member and see, how things are progressing.
Or as a parent, for that matter.
Yeah.
The parents can't do it either. No.
Yeah. I'd like to ask on top of that, Elena, do you feel like the OSSBA training that you're required to get and receive, does that empower you to take control of your school district? Or what's the concept of that training, when it comes, what do you actually get out of it?
Oh my. So how many days? I think we were at OSSBA training for 3 days. It was just a lovely hotel, all kinds of salespeople for, to build more monuments into themselves. And what I got out of the training, truthfully, I think I was kind of a thorn in the side. I got out of the training that we're there to support that superintendent no matter what. I sat at a table going, hey guys, what's going on here? And people just kind of walked away from me because I guess it's just a known fact that we're there to support the superintendent because they've been trained to know all, but they don't know all the parents and constituents that are crying and and that are frustrated about IEPs and bullying and students not learning anything.
Yeah.
Graduating without the third grade reading is just horrible.
It is. I think OSSBA, they know what's going on. They don't care what's going on. And they mostly just, as you said, want to make money off of our kiddos. And that's their purpose. And that's why they killed our bill that would have put a stop to that.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's important, and we've said it before, but I don't think people really, put that together. OSSBA, the Oklahoma State School Boards Association, is a nonprofit organization, and I think last time we looked, they were in the neighborhood, right, Julie, of like $9 million they made or something.
Yes.
These
Yeah,
are the richest nonprofits I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
They just make a lot of
they
money.
are. They all have really nice suits and shoes when they came
Yeah.
to kill the bill.
Yeah, and it's important to remember, because I think people so often, because of our lack of civic knowledge, frankly, I think is huge here. People don't put two and two together. So schools pay the Oklahoma State School Boards Association for membership. And they have a membership then. So everybody on the board is covered under this Oklahoma State School Boards Association membership. Again, it's a nonprofit organization, brings in about $9 million a year, something like that. They provide training for school board members in Oklahoma. That's their, main thing. And don't forget, it has to be, I think, 13 hours or
15,
more.
it was
12
15.
hours, and we could only prove 8 million last year
Okay.
when our
Okay.
bill was up.
Okay. So, but here's the thing, is it's kind of like schools don't have their own money, kind of like the government doesn't have their own money. So if schools don't have their own money, and all they really ever get or should get is taxpayer funding. So taxpayers are paying a nonprofit organization to train school board members away from the law of Oklahoma, which says, the school board law says, that the school board has the power to hire and fire the superintendent. Therefore, the superintendent is underneath the board, and the board is above the superintendent. So your tax dollars are going to subvert school board members into believing that a superintendent is the most powerful thing in their district, which is, as Elena just said, false. So don't forget, you taxpayer are the one that's funding this nonsense. And guess what? Even the icing on that cake is that you get to lose your property if you decide that that's a screwy deal and you don't want to pay it anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, it's false. It's false on paper, but it's true in reality. Your superintendent is the most politically powerful person in your community.
Mm-hmm.
Because how many times have we gone to the legislature, Julia, and tried to get a bill passed, and they say, well, my superintendent doesn't like that.
Yeah.
So who gives a rat's rear hind end about whether your superintendent likes it or not? Where did that come from?
Yep. Right. Your superintendent.
What about your constituency?
Yeah, your superintendent is receiving taxpayer dollars, so they're not going to be, impartial. They're going to always want more money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Alina, have you, in your time on the board, are there any ideas you have for stopping some of this stuff? Is it just, unfortunately, parents getting involved, and parents don't really want to get involved? I mean, I can tell that you totally see these problems happening. Do you have somehow to put an end to this, to tamp it down?
Well, I was disappointed when we elected, the same people over again. So, you do the same thing, expecting a different results. And you know what that is.
Yeah.
So, do that same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So the insanity continues when we have elected, the same person to be in another district to as a school board member in district was our District 7 here in Tulsa. And so we have the same thought process. And I don't know, we appointed someone of the same mindset. So there are very few people on the Tulsa Public School Board that think differently. Then that's been thought, considered in the past 10 years, 8 to 10 years. So my only hope is that parents and constituents would come out and be the loudest. If we don't get our voices out there stating, that we want our children, adequately educated or even exceptionally educated in truth,
Right.
then we can't, I just don't know, because I believe that, so many people, so many organizations have their hands in the pie of sorts, where we're getting money from businesses, we get money from organizations, we get money from the feds. I mean, money's coming from everywhere. And the one with the most money has the most say so on how our children are being educated. And it's
But I have a question for you. But we've been told over and over again that public schools don't have enough money. And we've also been told that when we ask how much money does a public school need, they'll say, sit down and shut up, and we'll tell you when we figure out what that number is.
Right. There's no end to what they need. When they get what they need more. So it's horrible because every year they're asking for bonds. Every year, people are donating. We have, organizations donating money from the city to the state, DHS. Everybody's donating to the schools, and it's good. I don't know where it's going. I don't know when it'll get to a classroom teacher. I mean, I've walked in classrooms where they're overheated. It's hot in there, or the air conditioning and children are just uncomfortable. Teachers are coming out of their pockets for supplies, and it on their wonderful budget that they have, but they got to share it with their families and then with their family in school. So I just, what is the true answer? How much money is enough? All of those are valid questions and very, very serious issues. They're asking for more time. They need more time off to prepare for the classes. And I just never heard of such. I don't get it.
Well,
what are you
one of the things that is amazing to me, they're always saying the teachers want to get paid like they get paid in Texas. Well, Texas spends 25 cents to the dollar on administration. So if we were to cut in Oklahoma, cut our administration budget by 75%, and gave that money to teachers, we would be like Texas. And we would be actually, they would get paid better than Texas. So I'm just wondering, I mean, your own superintendent there in Tulsa, isn't her package like close to $500,000? That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I was there when they paid it to her. I was in shock.
and that's the crazy part of this whole thing is that's with zero accountability. There's no performance attached to any of that.
Has been piss poor for years. It has nothing to do with COVID. It's been poor for many years. And then I'm sorry. Please excuse me. I'm sorry. 1 second. I'm going to put you. 1 second. Let me get off the. You got some. Okay. I don't even know how to do that. I don't know how to do that.
Again, it's always
Forgive me because we're live. Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry. I just trying to figure it out here.
No, you're all good. We'll just mute you, and then you can run on for a second if you'd like. See, Michael's leaving.
Yes.
I mean, everybody's just given up.
I've had to hush my people too. It's okay.
Yeah, it just happens like that. So
Well,
I think
I want to make another point. Maybe I should wait till Elena comes back on. But when we look at go back to that bond issue and the amount of money, because since we're on this money issue, we have facilities here in Oklahoma in these school districts like Tulsa, like Edmond, like Norman. These school facilities rival the school facilities anywhere in the country. So there's no lack of building, and the walls that surround these kids have really nothing to do with their academics. And that's what it really comes down to is, and if Elena's back on, Elena, can you hear me?
I am. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hey,
it's okay.
life is happening over here.
Anyway, I was just talking about the facilities that we have are they can match any facility across this country in any other state. Just how well the structure and infrastructure of our schools are built out here in these larger communities. But because there is no accountability aspect, and when it comes to the academic, to their performance, like with School Boards for Kids, we compiled all of the academic performance, the reading and math proficiencies for the last several years. And we went back to 2019, kind of was the base, kind of pre-COVID. So there's no excuses, no excuses at all there. Like I just pulled up Tulsa here. And this is Tulsa elementary schools in 2019. Now this is being very conservative because there were a couple schools in there that had very good numbers, but you look at the reading proficiencies of the elementary kids in Tulsa in 2019, and it's probably worse now. You've got 59% of the kids are not proficient at grade level, and that's just in Oklahoma. That's not even going out nationwide. That's not even comparing to some of these better states. You got 59% of the kids are below proficiency in reading. You got 46% in Tulsa that are below in math. So, with all the money they have, with the amount of money that is spent on administration and everything, I mean, the kids, the academics themselves, which are why we send our kids to school, that is just suffering tremendously. And
so let's rephrase what you said. Over half of the kids in Tulsa public schools can't read. Slightly under half can't do math.
Yeah.
Now, you just said, Alina, that Dr. I can't remember her name suddenly.
Gist.
I don't know why I didn't remember that. Dr. Gist makes almost $500,000.
Yeah.
To get
Over
those results.
Yeah.
To get those results.
And I think she's been there 8 years, and this has been going on over 8 years, and there's been no change. None, and it's gone down.
Parents in
and
Tulsa
we have less students. So yeah.
Wow. You have less students?
We have less students, and teachers are just like fleeing. So I don't know. It's really, and so we have I think it's less than 30% that are academically proficient in Tulsa. And then also students have definitely, the student count has decreased for sure in the last 3 years, and certainly after COVID even more so. So we are not we are not doing our job. It's just not happening. It's not happening. And I'm thinking about things like MAP scores. What is that? Oh, let me remember what the proficiency. What is it? Academic.
I'm trying to think of what the M stands for.
Yeah.
But it's academic proficiency.
Academic.
Okay.
No, it's not even proficiency. Measured academic progress. So it's never ever. So they never ever hit proficiency, because the progress are these tiny little increments that they'll allow us to read. So our bar is so low, and we're very barely even meeting that low bar, and they're definitely not meeting state standards.
Wow.
And this is all under, the same regime. I think before Deborah Gist, there was Hoffmeister, and it was worse. So there's that. It was just as bad.
Elena, do you think parents are just uninformed as to the real academic scores, I'll say, that
I can't
these kids
believe,
have?
well, when you say that, recently I could think that, maybe they are uninformed, because I'm just, realizing that teachers are encouraged to pass students with A's, B's, and C's, even if they're not reading. So I don't know, if how this works. Yes, uninformed. I think they're misled. I think,
Yeah.
everyone is getting duped. I think everyone is being deceived.
Well, it used to be years and years ago that Julie and I would say that parents tend to suffer from what I call NIMBY, not in my backyard. So
Yeah.
all of these schools are terrible. They suck. They stink. They're horrible. But mine's great. And I love my teacher, and she's awesome. And
I hear that so much.
yeah, and that's kind of where they go. And I've thought about that kind of in psychological terms. So think about it. If you know that something that you're doing is either damaging or not helping your child, and you don't want to deal with it, or you feel like you can't deal with it, what are you going to do? I mean, psychologically, you're going to at some point tell yourself something that isn't true to make it okay for you, so that your mind can encompass that. So when you say that parents are misled, I think frankly, they're misleading themselves. They don't want to put the effort into what it's going to take, because educating a kid is some effort, and there are a lot of parents who just literally have these children and expect the government to raise them anymore. And they expect the government to raise them in government preschool, and then they expect to raise them in government public school. And so when you have all of this apathy out there and these people that are just expecting schools to raise their kids for them, how do you raise the bar then? Because what ends up happening is we just continue to give more and more money to these schools who just keep doing a crappier and crappier job, while the parents, pacify themselves to say that it's not happening at their school. I don't know how. It's kind of like a really evil circle, right? Where, the schools get the money to do the job that they don't do, but then the parents know that they're not doing their job, but then they're not going to take responsibility for that and then make the school do their job. And it just goes around and around and around. How do you ever get out of it?
I think it is a vicious cycle, because parents have made, in the last 20 years or so, and these are the people now who are the parents, children have been children for
Right.
a few decades now. So they don't know the expectation that is needed.
Parents do show up, they get shot down.
Yeah, and that's a good point too.
Well, but,
so they
but
don't.
also well, sorry, Elena. But also to your point, Elena, parents, I do think they are misled. Standards are dropped, and then parents see an A or a B on a
exactly. They think they're doing better.
On a report card, or they go in and they have a parent-teacher conference, and the teacher says, "Oh, they're doing great," and they don't, unless we raise the standards and we really say, "Hey, this child is reading at 50% of where they should be," and let parents know that. I mean, I think parents are completely misled, Jenny.
Well, and you may be completely right about that.
Right. I don't think that all of parents are aware of what the standard should be, and they're being taught and told that this miseducation is a great thing, as long as your child is having fun at school, as long as we're going to give them access to, well, another issue I have is giving parents, students access to the FAFSAs with the, and hand them this application to get grants and loans. And so as soon as you get addicted to this free grant money, then you can also get free loan money, the whole FAFSA starts with the word free. So as soon as you started attaching free to everything, you're thinking that you're doing something great for your child by pushing this on them, whether they can fill out the application or not. Let's get some help filling out the application. So we that is a huge push in our school district, is to get those AFSAs out so we can strap some loans on them, and now they can maybe even get a career, because they may not make it to university, but they can make it to a trade school or something like that. And if you can't read, you're still doing everybody a disservice.
Yeah.
Dana commented maybe they're doing great on emotions, obviously not academics. Great point.
Emotional learning, they say I'm against that, but I think the children should learn true academics, and I think that they should, if they can have fun doing it, fine. If it's going to take a little buckling down and not be as fun, we need to start that early.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you what I learned through our campaign and just my time in education, talking to all these parents, is parents, our age and older, they still believe that school is like the academics, and school is like when they went to school back in the 80s and 70s and 60s, when it is completely different now. And there's so many people, I think, that they think that it's the same as, when they went to school, that they just can't conceptualize what is really going on in these classrooms now.
No. Well, and I think, to your point, I think that's a fair point. But also, I was the classroom teacher for a lot of years. And, granted, in high school, I kind of didn't expect a lot of parents to show up because, you're kind of trying to wean your kids off of your help by the time they're in high school. But I did a number of years in middle school. And I was just shocked at the number of parents who did not show up for parent-teacher night, ever. And, I do think that you're right about the fact that, parents don't know. They look at it and go, well, he's making an A, I'm fine about that. And they don't really, but, on the flip side of that, they're not looking at the homework when it's coming in. They're not sitting down and trying to go over the homework with the kid. If they did, they would find out math is ridiculous. And, if they're doing Common Core math, which so many schools are doing, which is meant to ruin kids for math, by the way, as Julia and I said 14 years ago, and we're completely right about then. So they would know about that, and they would know how low, these kids were expected to do. So, I understand what you're saying. I think that there is kind of some duping of parents going on, but I'm sorry. I really believe that parents are not as involved in their child's education as they should be every day, because it is an everyday thing. And, parents, I just want to encourage you. And I know I sound like I hammer on parents a lot. And on some of you, I do, because if you're not paying enough attention, that's your problem. You need to turn around and do that. But, you can educate your own kids. I've done it. I have kids in college. I have kids in society that I managed to educate into society. It's doable. And if you don't have the time to do that, for God's sakes, stay engaged and, and be there for your kids, but get into that homework, know what's going on, talk to your teacher, be engaged. And don't you think, Elena, that knowing who their school board member is, and just at least, and I know how frustrating it has been for Michael, and I totally get that. But don't you think that maybe parents just need to hammer on their school board member?
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. And You know, I am certainly a parent advocate because having been a single parent, an adoptive parent, a parent of a special needs child,
Oh gosh.
been there, done that. And then I run an after school program for several years where I would open up backpacks and weeks of homework would be in the backpack of the kindergarten, first grader, and they haven't done their writing lessons or their, I sight words. I don't like those that much, but anyway, so they've never seen, even opened up the backpack. So I get it. And I've been on parents, frustrated parents as well, saying, hey, you got to open up this backpack. You got to help us with that. So I've been on both sides. I understand. Yeah. And just trying to run things as a single parent, you working, going to school and raising children. Yeah. It's a blessing and it's a lot. So you have to get a team. And so a school board member, I'm Elena Ashley, and I would love to be your school board member if you're in Tulsa, because I have people from every district, not only my district, the 4th district, people from all over. They contact me and say they need help, and I try to find help. I try to find resources. I have a district meeting for parents, teachers, and constituents. I do it monthly, depending on holidays and that kind of thing. I have a different district meeting so that people can come and speak out without being recorded, so they can speak freely. Teachers can say what they need, and we try to work together to find resources. I invite, legislative officers and statesmen to come and hear our needs and give us resources on how we can help each other. And so I do this on a regular basis. So if you wanted to follow me on Facebook, I'm at Elena Ashley at TPS or something like that. But that is so important, to get your voices heard, as I keep saying, to speak out, and reach out, to the superintendent, because if a parent is reaching out and not getting a response, I get some kind of response. So if you let me know about it, I can speak to the superintendent, and
that's a good point.
So you want to reach out to your school board member. And I'm not going to say that all school board members take on issues like I do. But, I get issues from the tree is dying to, my child is being beat up. So, okay. So I read, I make sure that I let the superintendent know, and I try to put it up the ladder so that they'll know that there is some force that's behind our concerns. And I can only do it with the help of parents and with the help of teachers, because there are a lot of teachers that love teaching but are not satisfied with how they're being employed.
Dana is asking, do you have any advice when school board members don't reply to parents, which they've had a lot of that problem in Canadian County?
Do I have? I try to reply. I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Any advice when school board members don't reply to parents? Is there, what would be the next thing?
Then show up, and come to the school board meetings. If they're not answering, your emails and texts and phone calls, show up to the school board meeting. And I know parents get, banned and put out and that kind of thing, but that just brings more attention to our voice. So sometimes, we have to suffer a little bit, and it's not, it's worth it to save our children.
Well, Michael, you've got some things that parents can do too.
Yeah,
they can contact me, and I'll get on them. I'll get on the superintendent and the school board members, and we'll file open records requests. We'll try to do whatever we can do to get some answers, because ultimately it just comes down to one thing, Elena. You're a very accountable person. You're a very transparent person. You're an actual representative of the people and of the parents of your district. But most of these other school board members, they're not. They're just in a supportive role of the superintendent. And I think if we can empower, we don't have to necessarily attack all these school board members. If we can just say, hey, this is your job. This is what we expect from you. This is what we want for our kids, and just hold them a little bit more accountable, then I think we will have some change.
Well, and I want to point out to people too, right now, there's Michael's address. So it's michael@rope2.org. So if you do have a situation in which you don't have an Elena Ashley as your board member and you need some help, please reach out to Michael. Michael, how many parents have you've actually done some pretty good help for a number of parents. So, I mean, schools prefer, apparently, when you don't contact them.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is when I kind of make initial contact, I'm always very nice, very cordial. I'm just trying to help the parent get an answer to a situation, whether it's bullying or, I mean, I've helped parents with sexual assault issues. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, but when someone just really starts asking questions, then that just puts the school on notice that they're being watched, and now they're more likely to help and to do the right thing. But if we just leave them, unattended, then we're not gonna see anything. But yeah, I mean, I've done hundreds of open records requests and help parents file police reports, just kind of direct parents towards an attorney, or there's a lot of things we can do. But board members normally don't tell parents that kind of information, and I think they should.
Right.
Well, and Dana also said accountability isn't an attack. So if somebody views, if a school board member, if a teacher, if whomever views your questions just to try to get some accountability as an attack, then there's already a problem, straight up front. So that's a good point there.
Jenny, I'm so sorry. Things are going on. My household is alive with workers.
Well, we are so excited to have had you, and thank you so very much for being with us today, Alina. And we just continue to pray God's mercy over you and your job that He's got you doing, and just hang in there. And if you ever need Michael, you can always let him know.
Yeah,
I will. I got him now. Michael at Rope 2. I got that now. I think.
Thanks again for being
before too.
Yeah, thanks again for being with us, Alina, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you. God bless.
All right, you as well.
Let me get that.
So at the end of the day, and unfortunately, I can't get Alina off, because if I get Alina off, we'll never get her back on, because it kicks them off. So, so at the end of the day, Michael, I mean, Julia and I could talk all day about school boards and what we've done to try to get some accountability back to school boards, and about the fact that we've gotten nowhere in our state legislature, because our state legislature is too weenie to go up against the Oklahoma State School Boards Association. How do we help parents at all in this particular issue? I mean, how does that happen?
Well, I think it's more or less just constantly letting parents know that they have that they have a major role to play in this accountability side and transparency side in their child's education. And if they just take a back seat and just send their kids to school, like you said, where they're basically, the school's raising these kids. And yes, I'll agree. A lot of parents, they are busy working, trying to survive, and they're the schools have become like a glorified babysitting service, in some aspects. But if we don't start taking a more active role in this education. I mean, in my opinion, it's set the way that it is on purpose. We're only going down. We're not getting any better. These schools have more and more money, and like I said before, the bonds and the measures and the facilities, the walls that surround these kids really have nothing to do with the academics and the education that they're being taught. So if we allow that to continue, then we're never going to change anything. So I think parents just have to constantly be in the face of their school district. They need to know their teachers. They need to know what's going on. They need to, like you said, they need to look at their homework. They need to look at what's going on as far as what's coming home with these kids. But also at the same time, Jenny, that's difficult because all these, even a lot of these elementary schools, this information is all on like a tablet. Or
forgot about that.
Or, it's not easily reviewable, like a folder that comes home with a bunch of paperwork in it that you can just look at. You've got to go back through their First of all, a lot of parents, they don't even know how to use these, the school technology in the first place.
They can change it for the parents.
Yeah.
They can give the parents one thing and the kids another.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I guess, what it comes down to is the parent just has to take it upon themselves to have a much more active role in education. And if that's in public education, then they're going to have to, do a little work, get in the classroom, talk to the principals, talk to the superintendent, really try to activate their board member, or they're going to have to seek other avenues like a homeschool or private school, or, where they can be more in control of the education process. But ultimately, I think education has been, ever since they even put in the Department of Education. I mean, I wish that should have been one of the first things that Reagan did was
it should have been
the Department of Education that Carter ran through right before that.
Yeah.
But the more centralized everything becomes, the worse it is. And I mean, we know that from government in general, but we live in the greatest country in the world, yet our education is getting worse and worse and worse. It's not getting better. So obviously it's by design. I mean, ultimately that's what I think. It's on purpose. It's on purpose to disempower us, to disempower our kids and make us controllable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, so many, throughout history, I mean, what has been used to change the mind of the citizenry? It's been some form of public education. And for some reason, parents just don't want to believe that could be happening, whether it's the whole too big to fail thing, it can't happen in America. I don't know what it is, but we have such a lack of either desire to see the truth or an ability to see the truth. I'm not really sure what it is, but the one thing that we have to focus on is truth and being able to see that truth and then confront the truth.
Well, truth in today's time is sopticism, which is just basically where you choose, or your reality is what is the truth is what your reality is your perception. Your perception creates your own truth. There is no real truth and real justice anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And we can talk about that with Dr. Mather. But like to Dana's point also, they make these things confusing and hard, with technology, and that's for the parent, to go back into the kid's Chromebook and review whatever it may be. But I'll take that a step further. I met with multiple teachers, and these teachers were so busy trying to learn new programs on computers, new curriculum programs and the way things work and all the steps and all the things you have to do. The teachers couldn't even teach because they were so busy just trying to figure out how to even use the software in the first place. and I had multiple teachers just say, hey, look, I'm completely micromanaged. All I do is spin my wheels on this stupid computer all day long. I would much rather just have a textbook and pen and paper and make a lesson plan like I did 25 years ago. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I talked to that said that exact same thing, that, every couple of years they're having to learn a completely new program, new software, new interface. They got to go all these trainings, rather than just concentrate on academics.
And again, that sounds like that's by design too, right?
I'm sure it's by design.
Yeah, I mean, well, sadly, honestly, and it is sad, I think, some programs won't even allow parents to set up an account, even though it was an option.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and that's interesting. But then let me just say this, and Julie, I know, you'll agree wholeheartedly. During Common Core, when we found the state longitudinal database, and, we warned everybody, we said, all this stuff, they're going to start collecting your information. They're going to try to figure out how to collect it. They've got this huge database, and I actually, went back and researched it and was able to show exactly how the database works. We have all of that on our blog, where people can go research that. What they're doing right now, data is control. I mean, that's all data is. My husband is a computer programmer. I mean, he's told me that for years, that data is nothing if not a way to control people. And yet we allow our children to allow them to have so much data collected on them. I mean, even if we're, the kind of parents that, put the programs on their cell phones and their computers to stop them from getting onto sites and into things that we don't want them to, because we want to protect their innocence. It doesn't matter. They get it at school, and they're part of the reason why these programs that you're talking about, Michael, that they, try so hard to get them into public schools, is because they make their money through collecting data on these kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what they do.
Well, everything's aggregated down to data now, and it's all going to be basically run through some type of AI system, and they're going to be able to serve you up everything you want, wish for in your life, and, give it to you. But I'll make one more. I'll touch one more thing on this technology and these programs. With my own kids, I've physically have watched this with my son, who's in middle school in Edmond. Okay, he's got his Chromebook, which I hate, and he's doing homework or taking some test or something on his Chromebook. Let's say it's a math test. So I'm sitting there watching him. I'm reading his questions. I'm watching him take his test. He can literally miss a question, and then it goes right back to that question, and he can just choose another answer. And then if he chooses wrong again, he can go right back in there and choose another answer. So there's no thought process. There's no, I'm like,
it's like Pavlov's dog.
Yeah, I tell my son, let's get a piece of paper here. Let's write this out and figure out what the actual answer is, besides just guessing. And they've lowered the standards, and they've used technology to allow this to happen. Because if you answered a question, if you're in a classroom and you have pen and paper, and you're answering questions, and you get something wrong, it goes to the teacher grades it, comes back to you, you look at it. I mean, you're forced to think about and to solve whatever that, or, to answer correctly. Now, technology has removed that accountability step, on that learning step, to where these kids aren't learning from their mistakes. They're literally just being able to just have an instant success by choosing, another answer.
That's why Jason can't read.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. And so that's what's allowing these kids then to get A's, essentially, when they're not getting A's. And by the way, that's another way schools cheat to get more money, is by doing this very same thing and saying, oh, well, our kids are doing great. Well, you let them have the answer 15 times. So at some point they're going to get the right answer. So, I mean, I'm sure there are good schools out there, and I know there are good teachers out there, but the system is ruined. The system as a whole is completely ruined. There's no backing up and starting over this again, because all of the people that are in the system that are pushing this garbage, the people in OSSBA, for example, you know, the superintendents associations, they could care less about what kids do. All they want is money. And if they're going to say, well, that's not true, and rope is just horrible, they just want to put down people, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
Well, I'll show you how much it is about money. And this is probably the case at every one of these schools. You take a community like Edmond, it's a very affluent community. They have a foundation. I mean, they have everything you can possibly have. There's no excuse there. They push in Edmond. They push the federal lunch program. They give away TVs. It's like total propaganda in order to sign these kids up. And I'll tell you,
seriously.
Oh yeah, they actually this last year they said it was a computer glitch. Okay. They signed up 1,000 or 2,000 extra people. My kid was one of the kids that got signed up for the school lunch program, and we got the EBT card or whatever it is in the mail for that. And the school said, that was just a computer glitch. We didn't mean to do that. Well, no, they did it on purpose so they could show, but if a school is advertising
exactly what they did,
TVs, come register, come to this school today. Everyone that registers, you're in a drawing for a free TV. So you don't tell me it's not about money, because at the end of the day, that is all about money. It has nothing to do with academics, has nothing to do with the welfare of the kids that actually need those programs. It's all to do with money.
Well, and let's not forget, so many schools, Sodexo, who runs, these lunch programs, you use your fingerprint.
Yeah.
Oh, so bad.
Don't forget. All right, we need to get off of here. Unfortunately, I have a cat that needs to go to the vet. So what happens I was going to say, you don't own pets. They own you, at least in this house.
That is true. I can testify.
Yeah, that's a fact. My life is not my own because of these animals. But seriously, guys, I do think that this was a really great program, and God bless Alina Ashley for.
And the handful of other great school board members. There are a handful that didn't buy into we only do what the superintendent tells us to do.
Right. And again, if you have any questions about any of that stuff, please, Michael is happy to help you. And we're so blessed to have Michael on the board and have him available to help you. So, please reach out to him. And again, have a happy Memorial Day. Let's all remember those who have died in service to our country over the weekend. And then we will see you again on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, who do we have?
What's the date? Oh.
We have Jana Belcher coming in. She's the outreach coordinator for Randall University and a board member for the Constitutional Home Educators Alliance, to explain when a tax credit isn't a tax credit and how taking a tax credit can affect the autonomy of homeschoolers. So we will see you on Wednesday, and thank you guys for everything you do. And please, those of you who are watching, make sure you share the video with your friends, and let's get this information out there so parents have it.
Yes.
All right, guys, have a great weekend. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.